I walked into my store to find my employee on the floor surrounded by broken merchandise. My manager explained, there was an attempted robbery. She fought back and fell. But when I pulled up the time-stamped footage, everything changed. I walked into Riverside Books and Gifts at 9:47 p.m. on a Thursday in October, expecting to lock up for the night like I'd done 1,000 times before. Instead, I found Destiny Williams, my 23-year-old part-time employee, lying on the floor near the register, surrounded by shattered glass from our display case. Her left eye was swelling shut, blood trickling from a cut above her eyebrow, her breathing shallow and panicked. My store manager, Trevor Gaines, was kneeling beside her, phone in hand, his face a mask of concern that looked almost practiced. "Thank God you're here," Trevor said when he saw me. His voice was urgent, but steady, too steady for someone who'd supposedly just witnessed a violent robbery attempt. There was a guy, ski mask, tried to grab the register. Destiny fought back. He pushed her into the display case. She hit her head. I already called 911. I dropped to my knees beside Destiny. Her name tag was crooked, her Riverside Books polo shirt torn at the collar. She tried to speak, but only a whimper came out. Her eyes locked onto mine with something I couldn't quite read. Not pain, not fear, something else. Recognition, maybe, or warning. "Destiny, don't move," I said, my hands shaking as I checked for obvious injuries. "Ambulance is coming. You're going to be okay." Trevor stood up, wiping his palms on his khakis. "I got here maybe 2 minutes before you called. Found her like this. The guy was gone. Ran out the back door. Left it wide open." I looked toward the back exit. It was closed. Trevor followed my gaze. "I closed it after he left. Didn't want anyone else coming in." Something in my chest tightened, a warning signal I couldn't name yet. I'd owned Riverside Books and Gifts for 6 years, a small independent bookstore in downtown Eugene, Oregon. 2,000 square feet of carefully curated books, local art, handmade gifts, the kind of place that survived on community loyalty and personal service. I employed 4 people. Trevor Gaines, 31, my store manager for 3 years, handled inventory, staffing, and day-to-day operations. Destiny Williams, college student at University of Oregon, worked part-time for the past 8 months. Reliable, sweet, never caused problems. 2 other part-timers, college kids who worked weekends. The store did well enough, annual revenue around $380,000, modest profit margin, but it was mine, built from nothing after I left my corporate job at Nike in 2018. Trevor had been my first hire, recommended by a business networking group. Former assistant manager at Powell's Books in Portland, experienced, knowledgeable, professional. I'd trusted him completely, let him open and close the store, manage the schedule, handle deposits. Never had a reason to doubt him. Destiny had started last February, shy at first, but customers loved her. She remembered their names, their favorite genres, made thoughtful recommendations. She'd told me once she was saving money for graduate school, wanted to study social work, help kids in foster care like she'd been. I'd given her extra hours when I could, let her study during slow shifts. Now she was on my floor bleeding, and my manager's story was already starting to unravel in my mind. Sirens approached. 2 paramedics arrived at 9:53 p.m., followed by a Eugene Police Department cruiser at 9:56 p.m. The paramedics, Jessica Nowak and David Kim according to their name badges, went straight to Destiny. Officer Raymond Foster, maybe 45, crew cut, 20 years on the force based on the service bars on his uniform, took out his notepad. "Who called this in?" Trevor raised his hand. "I did. I'm the manager, Trevor Gaines. I got here around 9:45 and found Destiny on the floor. There was a robbery attempt." Officer Foster wrote that down. "Did you see the suspect?" Trevor shook his head. "No, he was gone when I arrived, but the back door was open. He must have fled that way." Foster looked at me. "And you are?" "Nathan Cross. I own this store. I got here maybe 2 minutes after Trevor called me." "What time was that?" I pulled out my phone, checked the call log. 9:46 p.m. He said there'd been an incident and I needed to come immediately. Foster walked toward the back door, examined it. "This door locks automatically when it closes, correct?" I nodded. "Yes, it's a fire exit. Push bar on the inside. Key access from outside. It stays locked unless someone opens it from inside. So, the suspect would have had to exit through here, and the door would have locked behind him." Trevor jumped in. "Unless he propped it open, maybe with something. I didn't see anything when I closed it." Officer Foster made more notes, his expression skeptical but professional. He walked back to the front of the store, looked at the broken display case. It was one of our glass-topped showcases where we kept expensive first editions and collectible items. Shattered glass everywhere, books scattered, but nothing missing that I could see immediately. "Was anything stolen?" Foster asked. I looked at Trevor. He shrugged. "I didn't check. I was focused on Destiny." I moved closer to the case, careful not to disturb the glass. Our most valuable items were still there. A signed first edition of To Kill a Mockingbird, worth about $3,800. A set of Tolkien first editions worth maybe $2,200. All still there. "Nothing's missing," I said slowly. "At least not from this case." Officer Foster raised an eyebrow. Attempted robbery where nothing was stolen, and the suspect fled through a door that should have locked behind him. Trevor's face reddened. I'm telling you what I saw. The door was open. The guy must have jammed it or something. The paramedics were loading Destiny onto a stretcher. She'd regained some consciousness, enough to grip Jessica's hand. Can I ride with her? I asked. Jessica shook her head. Family only. Are you family? No, but I'm her employer. She doesn't have family here. She's a foster kid, aging out of the system. David Kim looked sympathetic. We're taking her to Sacred Heart Medical Center. You can meet us there. But sir, she's going to be okay. Possible concussion, cuts and bruises, but vitals are stable. They wheeled her out. Officer Foster continued his examination of the scene. Mr. Cross, do you have security cameras? My stomach dropped. Yes, 4 cameras. Front entrance, register area, back room, and one covering the main floor. I'm going to need that footage. Of course. The system's in my office. Digital, cloud backup. Everything's time-stamped. Trevor's face went pale. Just for a second, barely noticeable, but I saw it. Fear flickering across his features before he composed himself again. I led Officer Foster to my office, a small room behind the register with my desk, computer, safe, and the security system monitor. I logged into the Night Owl security system, professional grade, installed 2 years ago after a break-in at the comic book store next door. What time should I start? Foster asked. Trevor spoke up from the doorway. Maybe 9:30? That's probably when it happened. I pulled up the footage, selected all 4 camera angles, set the timestamp to 9:15 p.m. to give us a buffer. We watched in silence. At 9:23 p.m., Destiny was at the register, counting the drawer for closing procedures. The store was empty, lights still fully on. At 9:24 p.m., Trevor entered through the back door. He approached Destiny, said something. She smiled, nodded, went back to counting. At 9:26 p.m., Trevor moved closer to her, leaning against the counter. They talked. Though we couldn't hear audio, the system didn't have sound recording. At 9:28 p.m., everything changed. Trevor grabbed Destiny's arm. She pulled back, clearly surprised. He yanked her toward him. She tried to pull away, her mouth forming the word, no. At 9:29 p.m., Trevor shoved her, hard. She stumbled backward into the display case, her body hitting the glass with visible force. The case shattered. She fell. Trevor stood over her for 3 seconds, just stood there, watching her on the ground. Then he pulled out his phone. At 9:31 p.m., he moved to the back door, opened it, looked outside, closed it again. At 9:33 p.m., he positioned himself near Destiny, kneeling as if he'd just arrived. At 9:46 p.m., he called me. The office was silent. Officer Foster's jaw was clenched. Trevor hadn't moved from the doorway, but his breathing had changed, rapid and shallow. Mr. Gaines, Foster said, his voice hard now, would you like to revise your statement? Trevor's hands were shaking. That's not, I can explain. We were just talking and she lost her balance. It was an accident. An accident where you grabbed her, shoved her into a glass case, then fabricated a robbery story? No, I didn't mean to hurt her. We were arguing. She said something, it made me angry. I just pushed her. I didn't think she'd fall like that. Officer Foster stood up. Trevor Gaines, you're under arrest for assault in the 2nd degree and filing a false police report. Turn around and place your hands behind your back. Trevor's face crumbled. Wait, no. Nathan, tell him. It was an accident. Tell him. I couldn't speak. Couldn't process what I'd just watched. My manager, the man I'd trusted for 3 years, had assaulted my employee and then tried to frame it as a robbery. Officer Foster cuffed Trevor, read him his rights. Nathan, please. Trevor was crying now. I made a mistake. I didn't mean for this to happen. I found my voice, cold and unfamiliar. What were you arguing about? Trevor looked at the floor. She rejected me. I asked her out last week. She said no. Tonight I tried again. She said she was going to report me to you for harassment. I got angry. I just wanted to scare her. I didn't mean for her to fall. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The times I'd seen Trevor talking to Destiny, standing too close, the way she'd asked to change her schedule 3 weeks ago to avoid closing shifts with him. I'd thought nothing of it, assumed she had class conflicts. She'd been trying to avoid her harasser. Officer Foster led Trevor out. Another officer had arrived, a woman, Officer Diana Suarez, and she was taking over the scene documentation. Mr. Cross, she said gently, I'm going to need you to preserve that footage, make copies, and prepare a formal statement. This is now an assault investigation with potential additional charges depending on the victim's condition and willingness to press charges. I nodded numbly. Can I go to the hospital? Check on Destiny? Yes, but we'll need your statement tonight. Can you come to the station after you see her? Absolutely. I locked up the store at 10:34 p.m., every movement mechanical, activated the alarm, triple-checked the locks, drove to Sacred Heart Medical Center in a daze. My phone was buzzing. Text messages from employees who'd heard about the incident through the Eugene community grapevine. Calls from friends asking if I was okay. I ignored all of them. At the hospital, I was directed to the emergency department. Destiny was in a bay behind a curtain, a nurse checking her vitals. "Mr. Cross?" the nurse said, reading my visitor badge. "Are you family?" "He's my boss," Destiny said quietly. Her voice was hoarse, but clearer than before. Her left eye was swollen completely shut now, deep purple bruising spreading across her cheek. Butterfly bandages closed the cut above her eyebrow. "Can I have a few minutes with her?" The nurse looked at Destiny, who nodded. The nurse left, pulling the curtain closed. "Destiny," I started, but she held up her hand. "You saw the footage." It wasn't a question. "Yes." "Then you know Trevor's been harassing me for weeks, asking me out, texting me after shifts, showing up at my apartment building." My chest tightened. "Your apartment building?" "I live at Cedar Ridge Apartments on Willamette. Trevor lives there too. Same building, different floor. I didn't know when I moved in. When I found out, I asked you to change my schedule, remember? 3 weeks ago?" I remembered. She'd seemed nervous, said she had class scheduling conflicts. I'd adjusted her shifts without asking follow-up questions. "Why didn't you tell me he was harassing you?" Tears welled in her good eye. "Because I needed this job. I'm barely making rent. Student loans are crushing me. I thought if I just avoided him, stayed professional, he'd stop. But tonight, when I was closing a loan, he showed up. Said he knew I was working late. Said we should talk." She wiped at her tears with the back of her hand. "I told him I was reporting him to you Monday morning, that his behavior was harassment, and I wanted it on record. He got this look on his face, like he was shocked I'd dare. He grabbed my arm, told me I was being dramatic. I pulled away. He shoved me. I went backward into the case. I remember the glass breaking, hitting my head. Then everything got fuzzy. "I'm so sorry," I said, the words feeling inadequate. "I should have seen this. Should have protected you. You didn't know. Trevor's good at hiding who he really is." She looked at me directly. "He made up the robbery story, didn't he?" "Yes. Told the police a masked man attacked you. But the security footage shows everything. He's been arrested. Assault charges, false police report, probably more." She nodded slowly. "Good. Because I'm pressing charges. Every single one they'll let me." A doctor entered, Dr. Raymond Kim, according to his badge, early 50s, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Ms. Williams, I have your CT results. No skull fracture, no brain bleed. You have a moderate concussion, lacerations, and significant bruising. We're keeping you overnight for observation, but you should make a full recovery." "Thank you," Destiny whispered. "Doctor." Kim looked at me. "Are you her emergency contact?" "No, I'm her employer. She doesn't have family locally." "I see. Well, Ms. Williams will need follow-up care. We have information about victim services, counseling resources, advocacy groups. I'll have a social worker stop by to discuss options." After Dr. Kim left, I sat in the chair beside Destiny's bed. "I'm giving you paid leave, however long you need. Your medical bills, I'll cover whatever insurance doesn't. And I'm hiring a lawyer to represent you in the criminal case and any civil suit you want to file against Trevor." Destiny's good eye widened. "You don't have to do that." "Yes, I do. This happened in my store, to my employee, because I didn't see what was happening. I failed to protect you. Nathan, you're not responsible for Trevor being a creep. Maybe not for his choices, but I'm responsible for creating a safe workplace. I didn't do that. Let me fix what I can." She was quiet for a moment. "Okay. Thank you." I left the hospital at 11:52 p.m., drove to the Eugene Police Department's main station. Officer Suarez was waiting with a formal statement form and a detective from the assault unit. Detective Angela Vance, mid-40s, sharp suit, 15 years investigating violent crimes according to the credentials she showed me. We sat in an interview room, gray walls, fluorescent lights, coffee that tasted like burnt plastic. "Mr. Cross," Detective Vance began, "walk me through everything from when you arrived at the store to when you left tonight." I did, every detail I could remember. Trevor's too calm demeanor, his story about the robbery, the closed back door, the missing pieces that hadn't made sense. Detective Vance made notes on a yellow legal pad, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "Had you noticed any inappropriate behavior between Mr. Gaines and Mrs. Williams before tonight?" "No, but I wasn't looking for it. Destiny asked to change her schedule 3 weeks ago. I thought it was for school. Now I realize she was trying to avoid closing shifts with Trevor." "Did Mr. Gaines have disciplinary issues before this?" "None. He was professional, competent, never missed work. I trusted him completely." "Sometimes that's exactly how predators operate," Vance said quietly. "They build trust, establish themselves as reliable, then use that trust to isolate victims." We finished the statement at 1:23 a.m. Detective Vance walked me out. "Mr. Cross, we're charging Mr. Gaines with assault in the second degree, coercion, and filing a false police report. Depending on Ms. Williams' statement and any additional evidence, we may add stalking charges and harassment. His bail hearing is tomorrow afternoon. District Attorney's Office will keep you informed." "What can I do?" "Preserve all evidence. Employee records, text messages, security footage, anything that documents his behavior. And support Ms. Williams. Assault survivors often feel isolated and blamed. Having her employer stand with her publicly will matter. I drove home to my apartment in the Whiteacre neighborhood, too wired to sleep. Instead, I opened my laptop and started going through 3 years of employee records. Trevor's personnel file, performance reviews, time cards, everything. At 3:17 a.m., I found something that made my blood run cold. Trevor's time card for the past 6 weeks showed a pattern. He'd clocked in for morning shifts on days Destiny was scheduled to open. He'd taken breaks that coincided with her breaks. He'd volunteered for closing shifts on nights she was scheduled to close, something he'd never done before. I cross-referenced his clock-in times with our security footage access logs. Trevor had viewed footage from cameras covering the register area and front entrance 43 times in the past month, always on days Destiny was working. He'd been watching her, tracking her movements. I felt sick. I'd installed those cameras for security, and my manager had used them to stalk my employee. I compiled everything into a folder, screenshots of time cards, camera access logs, copies of Destiny's schedule change request. Sent it all to Detective Vance at 4:02 a.m. with a subject line, additional evidence of stalking pattern. Friday morning, I called an emergency staff meeting. My 2 part-time employees, Kayla Foster and Jerome Washington, both college juniors, both 20 years old, met me at the store at 10 a.m. I'd already sent them a brief text about the incident, just that there'd been an assault and Trevor was in custody. Now I owed them the full story. Trevor assaulted Destiny last night, I said without preamble. Shoved her into the display case after she rejected his advances and threatened to report his harassment. He then lied to police and claimed it was a robbery. He's been arrested. Kayla's hand went to her mouth. Oh my God, is Destiny okay? She has a concussion and bruising, but she'll recover physically. Emotionally, that's going to take longer. Jerome looked furious. Trevor did this? The guy who was always talking about professionalism and customer service? People show you what they want you to see, I said. Trevor built a persona of competence and reliability while secretly harassing Destiny for weeks. Kayla was crying. Did he do anything to me? Us? I don't know. That's why I need both of you to think carefully. Did Trevor ever make you uncomfortable? Say anything inappropriate? Follow you after shifts? Anything that felt off? Jerome thought for a moment. He asked me about my class schedule once. Seemed weird because he's not my professor, but I figured he was just making conversation. Kayla wiped her eyes. He used to comment on what I was wearing, like, "That's a nice dress, Kayla," or "You look good today." I thought he was being nice, but now it feels creepy. Document everything, I said. Write down dates if you remember them, exactly what was said, how it made you feel. Give it to Detective Angela Vance at EPD. She's handling the case. They nodded. Kayla looked at me. What happens to the store now? We keep operating. I'm hiring a temporary manager until I can find a permanent replacement, and I'm implementing new policies, mandatory harassment training, clear reporting procedures, security cameras with management oversight, not just manager access. Trevor's bail hearing was at 2 p.m. I attended with Destiny, who'd been released from the hospital that morning with strict instructions to rest. We sat in the gallery of Lane County Circuit Court. Judge Raymond Foster, no relation to Officer Foster I'd met the night before, presided. Trevor sat at the defense table with a public defender named Michael Brennan, fresh out of law school by the look of him. The prosecutor, Assistant DA Catherine Wolfe, 38, 10 years in the DA's office, presented the charges. Assault in the second degree, filing a false police report, coercion, and after reviewing my evidence package, felony stalking. Your Honor, Wolfe said, the defendant used his position as manager to track and harass the victim over multiple weeks. He used employer-provided security systems to monitor her movements. When she threatened to report his harassment, he violently assaulted her and fabricated a false crime to cover his actions. This demonstrates a dangerous pattern of escalation and deception. Trevor's attorney stood. Your Honor, my client has no prior criminal record. He's employed, has ties to the community, and poses no flight risk. We request release on personal recognizance. Judge Foster looked at Trevor. Mr. Gaines, you're charged with felony assault and stalking. The evidence includes clear video footage of you pushing the victim into a glass display case, then lying to police. Do you understand the seriousness of these charges? Trevor's voice was small. Yes, Your Honor. Bail is set at $50,000. You're ordered to have no contact with the victim or the workplace. GPS monitoring required. If you violate these conditions, bail will be revoked and you'll be held in custody until trial. Trevor's face fell. He didn't have $50,000. Neither did his family from what I knew. He'd be staying in jail. Destiny let out a breath she'd been holding. He can't hurt me now, she whispered. Over the next week, more details emerged. Detective Vance called me on the following Thursday. Mr. Cross, we executed a search warrant on Trevor Gaines's apartment. Found some disturbing evidence. What kind of evidence? Photos of Ms. Williams, hundreds of them, printed and displayed on his bedroom wall. Screenshots from your security cameras. Photos taken outside her apartment building, at the coffee shop she frequents, at her college campus. He'd been following her for months. My stomach turned. Does Destiny know? We told her this morning. She's understandably shaken, but she's working with a victim advocate from the DA's office. We also found journals, detailed entries about his obsession with her, fantasies about controlling her, resentment when she rejected him. Mr. Cross, this goes beyond workplace harassment. This is obsessive stalking behavior that likely would have escalated if you hadn't intervened. I thought about the security footage, about those 3 seconds where Trevor stood over Destiny after he shoved her, just watching. What had been going through his mind? What happens now? Trial is set for February. Mr. Gaines's attorney is trying to negotiate a plea deal, but Ms. Wolfe isn't interested. The evidence is too strong, and the DA's office wants to make an example of workplace predators. Good, I said. Whatever Destiny needs, I'm here. The trial came faster than expected. Trevor's attorney filed motion after motion, trying to suppress the security footage, arguing it violated his privacy. Judge Foster denied every motion. The footage was legally obtained evidence from a business owner's private security system. On February 12th, the trial began. I testified first, walking the jury through that night, the discovery of Destiny, Trevor's false story, the security footage that revealed the truth. Catherine Wolfe was methodical, showing the jury time-stamped screenshots, emails documenting Destiny's scheduled change request, Trevor's camera access logs. Trevor's attorney tried to argue that the shoving was an accident, that Trevor panicked afterward, and made up the robbery story out of fear. Detective Vance destroyed that argument on the stand. Mr. Gaines didn't panic. He spent 4 minutes staging the scene, calling his employer, positioning himself to look like a concerned manager who just arrived. This was calculated deception. Destiny testified on the 3rd day. She was composed, powerful, detailing months of unwanted attention, inappropriate comments, showing up at her apartment, texts sent after work hours. The jury watched the security footage 6 times. Each viewing, I saw their faces harden. On February 18th, after 4 hours of deliberation, they returned. Guilty on all counts. Assault in the 2nd degree, stalking in the 1st degree, filing a false police report, coercion. Trevor's face was blank as the verdicts were read. His mother, sitting in the gallery, sobbed. Sentencing came 3 weeks later. Judge Foster looked at Trevor. Mr. Gaines, you used your position of authority to stalk and assault a young woman under your supervision. You violated her trust, her safety, and the trust of your employer. You then lied to law enforcement, wasting resources and attempting to evade responsibility. He paused. I'm sentencing you to 6 years in state prison for assault and stalking, to run concurrently. 3 years of post-prison supervision. Mandatory sex offender treatment program. Permanent restraining order preventing contact with Ms. Williams. You are also ordered to pay $14,500 in restitution for medical expenses and counseling. Trevor was led away in handcuffs. Destiny sat beside me, her hand in mine. It's over, she said. It's really over. You did this, I told her. You were brave enough to press charges, to testify, to make sure he faced consequences. I had help, she said, looking at me. You believed me. That mattered. 6 months later, Riverside Books and Gifts was thriving again. I'd hired a new manager, Yolanda Reeves, 46, former librarian with 20 years of experience, strong moral compass, no tolerance for harassment. We'd implemented new policies, mandatory reporting training for all staff, anonymous complaint system, regular check-ins with employees. Destiny had returned to work part-time while finishing her degree. She was stronger now, confident, spoke openly about her experience at victim advocacy events. One afternoon in August, she came into my office. Nathan, I got accepted to graduate school. Portland State University, Master's in Social Work. That's incredible, I said, genuinely thrilled. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you. The paid leave, covering my medical bills, the legal support, you made it possible for me to heal and keep moving forward. You did the hard part. You survived. You fought back. You refused to let him win. She smiled. I wanted to tell you something else. I'm specializing in workplace harassment advocacy, helping other survivors navigate the legal system, connecting them with resources, teaching employers how to create safe environments. That's perfect. You're going to change lives. That's the plan. She handed me an envelope. This is my formal resignation. Portland's too far to commute. But I wanted to say thank you for seeing me, for believing me, for doing the right thing even though it cost you an employee you trusted. I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter of recommendation I'd written for her graduate school application, and below it, a handwritten note. Thank you for proving that not all bosses are like Trevor. Thank you for showing me that workplace safety isn't just a policy. It's a commitment. Thank you for helping me become the advocate I needed when I was alone and scared. I looked up, my eyes stinging. You're going to be amazing at this. I learned from the best, she said. After Destiny left, I sat in my office thinking about that night in October, about how close I'd come to accepting Trevor's story without question. If I hadn't checked the security footage immediately, if I'd trusted his explanation, Destiny might never have gotten justice. Trevor might have continued his pattern with another victim. I thought about the security system I'd installed for protection and how it had become a tool for stalking until it was finally used to reveal the truth. Technology was neutral. People made it harmful or helpful. I pulled up the security camera feeds on my monitor. Kayla was helping a customer find a book. Jerome was restocking the mystery section. Yolanda was organizing the register. All of them safe. All of them protected. That's what mattered. Not just the cameras or the policies or the training, but the commitment to believe victims, to investigate concerns, to hold predators accountable even when they wore masks of respectability and competence. Trevor would be in prison until 2030. Destiny would be changing lives as a social work advocate. And Riverside Books and Gifts would continue to be a place where people felt safe, valued, and believed. Because the truth, once revealed, couldn't be hidden again. The footage didn't lie. The timestamps didn't lie. And neither did the woman who'd been brave enough to press charges against the man who'd hurt her. That was justice. Not perfect, not painless, but real. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.